Hey guys, welcome back to Leading Lessons. This week we have Nate Solder with us. Nate is awesome in that he is also a starting point leader and he leads a dinner group too. So he's got the dual role. So he's going to be able to provide us with some good insight, knowing what it's like to lead a dinner group, but then also the bonus side of what it looks like to lead a starting point. So welcome, Nate. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So last week, I've been told that's like the hardest week because the week we got to talk about sin. So we talked about sin. Where do we go from here? What's the topic for this week?
That sin is the hardest, and we have to sit in that.
Yeah,
And this week is trust and righteousness, and the next step on the path of faith here.
yeah, that's awesome. I like how you said that we have to sit in that. It was, I'm just curious. Sarah and I. So Sarah, the other associate director here that helps me with groups, both of us lead groups, and what we experience is that the believers in our group wanted to run ahead to grace, right, and not kind of sit in that sin and trying to understand its importance and the role it plays. Anything you've done in your groups to help slow down that and take it one step at a time, or you're even yourself that to slow down and not run to all the answers that are coming?
Well, no, I think I won't even blame that on the group. I'll blame that on myself. I don't
Mm.
like to sit in the stickiness, the nastiness of sin. But
Yeah, who
one thing
does?
that I know, yeah, right, no one does. One thing that I know is that the cost of our sin, the price was high. It's
Hmm.
not something simple and just goes away. It's not a cheap thing. It cost the Son of God. So this is not something we can just rush through. This is a profound, big thing. And I think the more that we feel our sin, the more that we're convicted by it, the more we appreciate the grace and the benefits of it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And then this week we're going to be talking a lot about Abraham, and um, Abraham always reminds me now of home. I got my shirt on today. Nice little stain that just showed up, but
Just like me, man. I got stains all over all
dude,
my
yeah.
shirts.
My favorite is Anthony calls them fat guy tattoos, and that's just
Yeah.
the thing that I've just adopted from now on.
Yeah.
And
I'm
he
in
just
that
has an
group.
amazing joke for everything. But
Yeah.
sorry, so Abraham always makes me think of that. We spent time with that. But why don't you remind us, why is Abraham so important?
Well, actually, I love Abraham, and I've just been learning about him. If you look at Abraham, his dad's name was Terah, and
Hmm.
Terah in Hebrew actually means moon worshiper. So when we think of
Okay.
Abraham, we think of the father of all the faiths, but really what he came from was kind of a broken, screwed up past. I mean, this dude was a moon worshiper before he became the father of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And then the other thing I love about Abraham gives him credit for 15:6, where it said, Abraham believed the Lord, and it was credited to him for righteousness. So, hey, great job! You have so much faith. But then you go down to 7, and then 8. He says, "But Abraham said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" As immediately as he had faith, he also had doubt, right in the same. So
Yeah.
we have a guy that's broken, comes from a broken past, not a Christian, not a
Hmm.
believer. And then we have a guy that, as soon as he has faith, he also has doubt right alongside of that. So I just felt like that really resonated with me and how I feel about it too.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a great observation, and it's so interesting. Like, it took me a long time until I think I was. This was like after baptized and started to take the Bible more serious. Like when I was growing up, the Old Testament to me was always like these scary, dark stories, things like that. But as I became to mature, like I think part of my problem was I tried to look at them as like these perfect people, which like
Mhm.
is not the point of that. Like they're not meant to be the hero in the story. So like you read it and you're like,
Mhm.
all right, we need to find the protagonist, and this is the person where all the good things are going to happen to. And it's like, no, that guy's coming later in the story because these people
Yeah.
also need a savior. And
Yeah.
so I think after figuring that out is like just the light that opens into the Old Testament. Be like, okay, these are the flaws that like I see in myself and I can see in these characters as well, and
Yeah.
and these people, I should say. But and the other thing that's just important about Abraham is he is the father not just to the Jewish believers, the Christians. He's also the father of Muslim believers as well. And so I think again, when you're thinking about starting point, maybe you're thinking about other people who want to take this in the future. Maybe you have a Muslim coworker at work, and this is another guy that we can bring people back to talk about the lineage that's there as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Anything
one
else
thing,
you would add for
I
Abraham?
wanted
Go
to
ahead.
say about that. When you think of those other faiths, Judaism, they have the law, and then
Hmm.
Islam, they have the five pillars, right? So it's really a works-based righteousness. What we would say, like you have to
Yes.
do something in order to gain your righteousness. But actually, when you think about it, Christianity is a works-based righteousness too. And we kind of credit it to what I do, but really it was what Christ did when he died on the cross.
Mhm.
It was works based. So they all kind of fit and they all kind of blend together, but one is based on what I do, and I know I'm going to screw it up, and the other is based on what God did for us. So I think that's the major difference there.
Yeah. Yeah, that is fantastic. I think it's great too if you get a chance. Romans, I think it's 4 or 5. It might be even both, but they talk specifically about Abraham and his righteousness and how important that is inside of the story, because they're trying to show you, even from the start, it was never about works. It was never about what you do, but what he has done for you. And so this is a really important week, as are all the weeks, right? um,
It's a
but
great series. It
yeah,
really is. Go through
yeah,
the basics. We all need it. I mean, believers,
hmm,
non-believers, we all need it.
yeah. I think what's great too sometimes is you just like, we all grow up at different points, and like someone like myself who pretty much was born on the altar, right? And um, grew up in the church, like sometimes the gospel is just not explicit when you grow up, and so like you hear it and you think like you start to pick up these other things, like, oh well, it's about being good, it's about all these things, and then like when you finally get a chance to slow down on something like this, and it become more explicit, and you can go week by week and not rush ahead by other things that but like, okay, this week I'm just going to focus on righteousness. What is it? How does it affect me? Why is it important in the story? Like, and trying to put those things in there, I think it's one of those things that helps grow our own faith. So
Hmm. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. In our early education, a lot of times we skip all that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Well,
yeah.
I think some of that too is when you're a child, you're going to teach it how children can best hear it, right? But
Hmm.
eventually you grow up and you need to hear it differently. I think that the best way that I've heard it is Andy Stanley, who is the creator of this series too, or at least the church that created this. He always talks about it like, when we talk about the birds and the bees, like we teach it differently at each stage of life, right? And so like
Yeah,
religion shouldn't be taught the same through
yeah.
every stage of life. Like as you become an adult, like it's time to let go of some of that childhood
And
faith.
yeah, and I think what's awesome too with this starting point is you find some of the counter arguments to some of these beliefs are somewhat juvenile too. I
Yeah.
watched the Da Vinci Code in middle school, and that kind of formed some of my beliefs that I'm still holding on to, and I've never really realized, well, that's formulated by people in Hollywood. That's
Yeah.
so it's interesting to kind of dive into these things again, not in middle school.
That's awesome. Well, Nate, thanks for taking time to help out our leaders, and
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
be encouraging and praying you on. So take care,
Absolutely.
sir.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Nick.
Bye.